It's time for that Davis show with no technical difficulties. We are
We think.
streaming. We're streaming clean right now. We're clean. We're
We
burning
hope.
clean fuel. I'm your host, Kenneth Davis, and you know the executive producer right there. It is my man, Ryan Bukoveski. Follow me at That's Davis. Follow Ryan at Ryan B. Ski and Ryan B. Ski 1. And also make sure you check out Flippin' Friends. We post that when my computer, my computer is acting accordingly. Definitely got a lot of stuff we got to jump into today. We got a little bit about the QB situations in the NFL. Allen Robinson being franchise tagged by the Bears and Bobby Massie's option not being picked up. The rumblings about Kyle Long's return, and we got some stuff in up for grabs as far as March Madness, Les Miles and spring training. Also, a little bit of the All-Star game. Let me not forget to talk a little bit about one of the better All-Star games I've seen in a long time. And I mean, of course, competitive-wise, no, but it was entertaining. They were having fun, and i.e., I had fun watching them have as much fun. Ryan, how have you been doing, man? It's been a second since I've talked to you.
Can't really complain. Doing fine. Working, grinding in my other job. But other than that, really no complaints.
Hey, how is my sound quality? How do I sound?
You sound good. You got the wireless earbuds, huh?
Yeah, but I also have this.
Oh, so you were given one. Okay.
No. I wasn't given anything, buddy. That was purchased by Davis.
What? All right,
Yeah.
Don't even get me started on that.
So anyway, I want to go off top.
Off top?
All right, off top one for today is remote learning. Me and Ryan had a show meeting this morning, and it was funny because I'm sitting there with my daughter. Tuesdays mornings are usually the day that I sit there with her. She has class from 9 to about almost 11. And I'm sitting there, and the teacher, he's not having a good day. Like the new teacher, I'm gonna tell you. Let me write it back. Her teacher left, and the assistant teacher
she had enough.
Oh no, she wasn't. As soon as now, she may have been ready to go anyway when she got this job. But when they announced that they were going back to school, she was out of there. She was not going to be in class alone with these kids. She didn't even go back the first week. She went back the week later. And then she was only there for like a week and a half before she got a job. She still works for CPS, but she's not teaching in CPS. She works at like downtown, or she may still work remote. But she was out. These little kids
hung up her ruler and didn't want to come back to it.
It dipped. And the funny thing is, after keeps talking about perhaps the new teacher got sick because they do her male teacher. He does these things with these little hand puppets. He did one last week about the kids knowing when they don't feel well. Basically, if you guys got the Rona, you should know so you don't bring it to school with you. And Ashton's like, I think, they're trying to warn out somebody got sick because that's why he's doing the hand puppets thing or whatever. So the teacher wasn't there today, and he wasn't having a good day. And I mean, he's a good man. I will say that about him. He's a pretty good dude.
Is this accurate for this dude? I was doing this for, but this is even more like the teacher than anything.
Yeah, that's pretty. Listen, he definitely hit that bottle. He's hitting that bottle right now in a responsible way. Like I say, good cat.
Go from Poppins down to the lonely wench running the orphanage of Little Annie.
Good cat, Sox fan. One after told me yesterday, one of the little boys had a Cubs sticker on, and he's like, "We don't wear that up in here." Kelsey, you see what he got on? Because he knows that I'm a Sox guy and that we're Sox fans or whatever, right? And just told this little boy that he shouldn't be putting the Cubs band-aid on his boo-boo. So anyway, so today,
wait, hold on. With that teacher, is this accurate? This is what it's starting to feel like with that teacher that left.
Pretty much.
I got to come back to school.
He said where I live. So today, right? We're sitting there, and it's taking a long time. And the teacher, it's been hard with some kids being in class and some kids being at home. Like for instance, Kenton's class. So far, only one student has went back in school for Kenton's class so far, right? So predominantly, it's easier to teach the remote kids. Plus, Kenton gets basically a whole day out of school. He gets out or whatever, but for the most part, he's in school outside of breaks from 8:45 till 3:40. You know what I'm saying? But Kelsey only on Tuesdays, she goes back in for Spanish on Tuesdays. So anyway, so the teacher is having the kids, they have to write out their names, and then they have to introduce themselves in class and spell their names out and everything, right? So he asks this young man, he calls him, he says, young man, I'm not gonna say the young man's name, young man, young man. And the kid's like, and the kid has a mask on because the kid is at a daycare. He's remote, but he's at a daycare, right? And the kid's like, and you already know the teacher's been in a bad mood. So the kid, he says, do you hear me? Something? He's like, and teacher goes, man, what is wrong with you? I'm sitting here, I'm talking to you something, and you talking like that? And whoever is at the daycare.
Wait, does he turn into the old teacher in the Kanye graduation album? Or no, was it College Dropout?
Yes, for sure, right? So the woman who is, I would think, is running the daycare, she tells him, she's like, say you sorry, right? And the kid's like, she's like, pull your mask down. So he pulls his mask down. She's like, say you sorry. He's like, sorry. She's like, say it. He says, sorry. So the teacher's like, thank you. Something. He's like, and turn your mic off. So he doesn't even let the kid do what his assignment was, right?
Wait, did the kid graduate and start a 9-to-5 at some corporate job in America? What's happening right now? Say you're sorry.
That's a written.
You're doing a verbal warning.
Then this is the last kicker for remote learning. So yesterday, was it yesterday? I'm sitting there and I'm watching, we're in class, and one of the kids, they usually have to say how they feel. One of the kids is like, man, I'm angry, right? I'm angry. And at the end of it, because he wasn't doing an assignment or whatever, his pops had to come in and help him. And the kid then goes into why he's sad. He's like, I'm happy, but I'm sad. I'm sad because I wasn't here for mommy's birthday, and she had this big party with a lot of people here. And I was like, oh my God. Like Shani just dropping the news that she is not following Rona rules whatsoever.
And then there was this white powder out on the table.
All on the table, right? And it disappeared. The crazy thing is the powder was magical. I'm joking. This did not happen. This young man.
They punched the mirror for some reason and put the powder on top. I don't know why.
He comes from a very good family. But yeah, I love to give a few updates as far as remote learning. It has definitely been a trial. For any parents out there doing it, I would say this. You just have to put in the extra time, especially if they're younger kids. Even if they're not younger kids, because your kids may not be doing what they should be doing. Even if they're doing what they should be doing, you got to put in some time. But you got to put in your own time and do some homeschooling with these kids. So I definitely want to kick off with that one. But also, we got some news. All right. For anybody that doesn't know, which a lot of you guys may not know, because I don't really put a lot of stuff out as far as me. I'm kind of I'm reserved. I'm a reserved
introvert?
Extrovert. I forget what it's called when you're both. I forget the name of it. There is a name for both, but I'm an introvert and an extrovert. You know what I'm saying? When the cameras and lights are on, I can play the game.
Complicated.
Facts. So anyway, I usually don't just post a lot of stuff outside of the show. You know what I'm saying? That's pertaining to me. So some people, it's funny. I got a message from a guy that I told you I wanted on this show a while back, Phil Ocean, who has this Tape Never Lies network podcast that actually has he's going to drop an episode with David Kaplan coming out tomorrow, or today rather. And we were going back and forth because I finally posted it on Facebook, so nobody that kind of know, depending on what platform you follow me on. But anyway, what I'm getting to is I'm the new host of the Under Center podcast for NBC Sports Chicago. You know, I'm lucky enough, presented by St. Xavier. Now, mind you, Ryan, I have to luckily Eric Strobel spent some time with me the other day to make sure when we were done with the podcast, he was like, it's Xavier, not Xavier, right? So I have to, but I mean, look at it. But I mean, so Xavier, presented by St. Xavier University. But yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, Tony is a high-ranking member of running podcasts at NBC Sports Chicago, and he mentioned me to Michael Allardyce, and Michael Allardyce gave me the opportunity. So definitely shout out to one of my closer friends, my little brother, big brother, depending on what's going on, Tony Gill. And definitely want to shout out also to my former co-hosts, Demaz, Sid, and Kyle, everybody like at the score. A lot of people have reached out to me from hosts at the score, like Danny Parkins hit me up yesterday. The first person when the thing came out that retweeted it was Jason Goff, Layla, just a lot of people, a lot of score producers, a lot of people that
By the
we
way,
kind of
you need to pitch that crossover Bulls Bears episode with Jason Goff.
All right. Hopefully, I hope. I'm sure at one time we will get to be on a podcast together. And I mean,
I'll give NBC that one for free.
And I mean, to be honest with you, Jason's a cool enough. I haven't had the opportunity to spend enough time with him as I've had a little bit more with J Hood and with Lawrence. But Jason's always been super cool. And I mean, he would really come on here. Again, with me sometimes, I know I shouldn't say this. I kind of feel like it's cheating. You know what I'm saying? Like, say, hey, I can pull this one out on you, whop, and you're not supposed to think like that. But it's as Ryan just said, Kenneth Davis, complicated. See, I knew I was gonna get you laughing. You needed this, right? You needed a good time. So yeah,
we all do.
We we dropped another episode last night. Which is initially today, but just to make sure this is set up right when you're listening to this Wednesday. We dropped the show last night about.
Wait, is that 2 episodes?
Yeah, we did. I was going to say we did an episode today.
Oh man, I'm an episode behind now.
Yes. Wow.
I gotta listen to that second one.
So yeah, we talked about some subjects that we're going to talk about here. You know what I'm saying? And that matter of fact, you know, it's enough. We'll get more into Under the Center as time goes on, and hopefully the rapport grows. I'm lucky enough to be on there with Adam Hogue, you know, Eric Strobel, Alex Shapiro, video editor. We have Brad Fossler, and of course, as I mentioned, Tony. And again, Michael Allardyce, you know, is giving me this opportunity. We'll see. You know, I got to prove and make sure that I can hold it down. I got to start working a little bit more Ken in there, but I'm trying to get used to it.
I like the Ken you were interjecting to begin with. That was some good stuff in there.
Okay, I'll keep that. But I know that's what Tony wants, right? But it's
want
still the format, like, because Tony had to text me because I kept resetting. He's like, this isn't radio, right? And so in my head, I'm in a radio head, right? I'm in a radio head space.
The score.
Yeah, so I'm like, that's like what if you see the video on YouTube from the first episode that I'm on, right before we did the show, I'm like, wait, wait, how am I going to do this? And actually, Adam Hogue suggested that they put that they use it. Tony said he was probably going to, or Brad did. But Adam Hogue said that, you know what I'm saying? And also
that was a Tony creation right there.
No, well, he may have still done it, but shout out to Hogue for doing it. And, you know, shout out to Hogue and his podcast with John's over after Athletic. Make sure you check that out. We not hating on podcasts over here. There's no reason to be hating on anybody's podcast. But yeah, all those guys have been welcoming, and I definitely appreciate them being as welcoming and taking time with me, you know what I'm saying, as I grow in that format and become more refined. And then one thing that Strobel said, and, you know, I always say it too, it's all about reps. Without reps, I wouldn't even feel confident stepping into that space, really. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I'm not as nervous as I've been in past when I step on into another stage. You know what I'm saying? To take another step. I remember like my first time like hosting on the score, I can remember being nervous. You know what I'm saying? Sure. My first times going on different television shows. But I stopped. I will say that I stopped and realized, dude, this is what you've been doing. This is what you do. So it's no worries. I think in a couple of weeks, the rhythm will be even better. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, as I learn them and they learn me. Go ahead.
You said it with the reps. I think you did a great job interjecting the Ken that we're used to right here on our computer. But the rest of the crew, I don't think, is used to that Ken. And once they get those reps, I think it's going to be that flow and rhythm that you're talking about.
I think so too, Rod. So yeah, that's what we're doing over there with NBC Sports Chicago, and we look forward to doing it for a long time. And hopefully, I definitely make those people proud, and we continue to blow here. You know what I'm saying with
Too
getting
bad.
reps over there.
Too bad the Bears are boring. Got nothing to cover over there.
Yeah, but that kind of always makes
facetious. That was a facetious comment.
the
Interject
yes.
facetious button.
But yeah. Also, still going along to dip over into a little bit of football. And now we don't have to spend too much time on it. Make sure if you want to get a little bit of discussion on what's going on with some of the quarterback situations in the NFL, to go check out the Under Center podcast presented by St. Xavier University.
Nailed it.
But let me ask you this, Ryan, because we don't have to stay on it too long. How much is too much for Russell Wilson?
I think I would have to agree with the panel when they were talking about it. I guess because the limit is 3 first-round picks, that's all you can give up. And because of that limit, I feel like there's not too much you can give for Russell Wilson. I guess, if you trade for Russell and you give away a bunch of assets and draft capital, it's going to be really hard putting a team around him, even though his contract isn't outrageous like some of the other top quarterbacks in the league. He's getting paid a decent amount for as good of a player as he is. He could certainly be making a lot more money. But man, it's just, when you don't have that guy, you're really just stuck. When you don't have that quarterback, there's just not much you can do. And especially the Bears division, Aaron Rodgers isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And if the Vikings or the Lions figure out something at the quarterback position, I mean, you're still just stuck in neutral, really, because you can't get to where you want to be as a Super Bowl contender or champion if you don't have that quarterback in today's NFL. So if you got to give up a ton for Russell, and another thing too is he's only 32, you would think he's got at least 5 really good years of football still left in him. You have pieces around your team that you're not barren. In this situation, I don't think there is a price that's too much for Russell Wilson.
And then on top of that, we got the Dak Prescott news. He finally got paid. Jerry Jones finally cracked open that wallet, and it made Dak Prescott the second highest paid player in NFL. You got $160 million. What is it, like 120 something, 130 something guaranteed? Almost 130
125.
Yeah. So almost 130 guaranteed. And this is after a horrific compound fracture. Definitely shout out to Dak for getting his bread. Man, I have to be honest. I've been thinking about holding that bread back if I was Jerry. I mean, you had to do it. I mean, especially after he broke his leg. And again, clearly he's healing fine. I don't know if there's a lot of soft tissue injuries to go along with that break. That'd probably be one of the concerns, because if it's just the bone, clearly, and I know he had to have other surgeries, but clearly there hasn't been an infection, because when you get a compound fracture, you're always afraid of infection and stuff like that. So that doesn't seem like it's going to be an Alex Smith type of situation, and Dak should be pretty much ready for camp. So definitely shout out to Dak for finally getting it. Jerry should have just done this earlier so he wouldn't have to pay as much as he has to pay. But I think Dak is only 22 million cap hit for this upcoming season. So they're still going to be fluid as far as the cap and be able to do a lot of different things as far as signing some of the other players on that team and the rookies. What were your thoughts when you found out that Dak finally got paid and how much that new contract is worth, Ryan? As far as the guarantee part.
I guess it's a good contract. I didn't do too much deep dive. It seemed low to me just because he wanted that 5th year. And he got 4 years, 125. That's a good amount. I'm not trying to say it's a bad amount, but it's really the number seemed low.
It's 6. It's 2 voidable years at the end of it, so they can move the money around. So it's 4 years, like you're saying, but they can throw the money to the back. But you know what I'm saying. But I mean, man, that seems like a lot, dog. He reset the market that any new quarterback basically easily gets paid $40 million a year. Now, again, that depends on signing bonuses, but you get what we mean. That year, he's basically averaging $40 million. I mean, that contract, he's averaging $40 million throughout it. So listen, I mean, again, I had Dak as my fantasy quarterback, and I'm not the Cowboys guy. I was a triplets person. as far as Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, and Troy Aikman. I was a triplets person, but I've never liked the fact they call themselves America's team, and they've been basically below average since the triplets for the most part. But with Dak, I like Dak, but he's had a couple comments that maybe didn't reach to.
Wait, no, finish that.
But still, I chose him as my fantasy quarterback last year because I was like, man, I think Dallas is going to be scoring a lot of points. And before he got hurt, he was wrecking shop for me, fantasy wise. And I was actually watching the game live, telling Dak, go down, get down, get down. And I'm like, oh Lord, no, right? Because he had already run far enough. And I didn't want him to get hurt, not because he was on my fantasy team, just because I didn't want to see him get hurt. You want to see anybody get hurt, let alone star quarterbacks. But I'm just saying, I've been apprehensive hitting him off with that bread. But I know the answer to that question, if I said it was a question, would be, who else would you get? You know what I'm saying? Like you're not gonna get a quarterback right now, or they could, where they draft that, necessarily get a quarterback, but they have a team that's ready to win on offense. You know what I'm saying? And hopefully Dan Quinn can get that defense back to where it was before last season, how they was playing the Saints well the season before last season. So perhaps, they can get really back on track. And on top of that, the NFC East is just trash on top of trash, lit with gasoline, kerosene, and napalm. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just one of the worst. If you have a good quarterback, you're pretty much you're good to go. You know what I'm saying? Especially with the amount of talent that Dak has on offense. Again, I'm happy he got his money. I know, but I don't know if I was breaking that bread if he would have gotten it from me.
That is a tough one. Because you're right.
What would you do?
What do you do if you're Dallas and you don't go with them? The options, being a Bears fan and looking out there, oh my gosh, it's hot trash. I mean, do you want Marcus Mariota? Does that do anything for you over Dak or some of these guys? So I get, like, you got to kind of go with Dak, but I'm with you. Like, I don't know if I'm seeing much more than Jared Goff with Dak. And I think he's better than Jared Goff.
I think he's better than Jared Goff, for sure.
But how much better? How much better?
A lot better. Like, I think Dak.
Is Dak like a top 10 quarterback?
I think he's right there around 7 through 10 when the beginning. Let me put this year, but before he got hurt this year, he was hovering around the fifth, somewhere around the fifth, I would say. You know what I'm saying? Because we got to look at where it was at that point. Tampa wasn't Tampa, so Brady. I'm just looking at this year's sample size, so it wasn't like we put Brady in the top. Brady was in the top 3. He lives in the top 3, but it wasn't like he was there off of this season. Russ was cooking, right? I don't know if the Texans, if Deshaun's numbers were what they were in week 5, what they ended up being throughout the year, necessarily. They may have been, but yeah, Dak was up there. Dak was an MVP. He was flirting around with the MVP conversation. The problem was that team wasn't winning, but he was keeping them in games though, and bringing them back in a couple of games that they did end up winning. So last year him and Jared Goff, the two shall never be spoken in the same sentence. But I kind of still get what you're saying opposites? Though. They just man, Dak can go get it, and Jared Goff hasn't proven that he can necessarily go get it and lead a team. Where Dak has proven that he definitely, and we're talking about in Dallas. We know how crazy things get in Dallas. You know what I'm saying? Let's not forget about Michael Irvin's White House. All right, like it can get crazy in Dallas. But one thing you said that stuck out to me is, what would you do? And I thought of this, and this wouldn't make as much sense. What we have seen, and I'm not saying that it totally went away, but we've seen a resurgence of players say that they want to play in Dallas. You had, and it's always funny now that I think if Tua ends up getting traded, in my head I'm like, that's what you get, because when he was going to be drafted, he was like, I would like to play for the Cowboys. I'm like, it's a brother there, dude. Like, what is you doing? Like, you're not supposed to say that when somebody has the job already, right? Fighting to get a contract. So I was like, if Deshaun gets the Dolphins, that's what Tua gets. But the point that I was making is, for instance, you have Tua that said he wanted to go to Dallas. You have Russell Wilson that said that was on the 4 teams that he submitted they wanted to go to Dallas. I'll be honest with you. With seeing what these quarterbacks can do, if one of them is in a year, 2 years before their contract is up, I think someone can force their way to Dallas if Dallas is open at that point. You know, so like that's just especially if they keep those receivers there. Zeke, you can find a running back. You know what I'm saying? Like it's that Zeke thing is a wrap, at least to me right now. You can find you a running back. But if you keep two of those, if you keep CeeDee Lamb and you keep what's his
Amari.
name? Yeah, Amari Cooper. You know what I'm saying? Not that's not even talking about Gallup. You know what I'm saying? You sweet. All right, you real, let alone if your tight end game is popping. I think they got a decent tight end now. But still, like I think it could be attractive. Now, me saying that doesn't mean you should go into a season doing that. But I always think about hearing about how the cap can hurt you in the future. So that's just one of the thoughts. But Jerry Jones has played Tony Romo, and to be all in fairness, I do think Tony Romo was better than Dak. But I think if Dak hit the top of his potential, he'll be better than Tony Romo because I think he's going to win consequential games that Tony Romo couldn't necessarily win in his career.
Yeah, and Tony had a problem with durability. So that was really the thing that kind of brought him down overall because when he was healthy, especially at the end, he was really good, but just weren't available. So you can't be that good if you're not available. So I'm with you on that. I think Dak will be a little bit better overall than Tony. And I mean, we know where Jerry's at. Jerry's dying for a Super Bowl. And
that's I don't know if that wordplay was good for a man of his age.
It's the truth. It's the truth, though. He is dying for it. And, I think if he could make a trade for Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson, he'd consider doing that. But outside of someone like definitely more elite than Dak, I mean, you got to go with Dak. You've got a guy, like you said, that was helping you win games when your defense was absolute trash. You didn't really have much of that vaunted running game that's been talked about. You have the explosive receivers, but, if you have to constantly, if you're down multiple touchdowns, multiple scores, and remember early on in this year, they were falling deep behind teams, and they won, I think, a couple games with some big-time comebacks because Dak brought them back. I mean, when you're down like 21, 28 to 0 or 7, it becomes predictable that you're throwing it, and it's not going to be as easy getting those weapons and getting them guys downfield and hitting them for big plays. So it just seemed like everything else fell apart around Dak. And we know how important the quarterback position is. We know how critical. We just talked about it. That's why the Bears aren't Super Bowl contenders whatsoever, because they have no solution at the most important position. At least if you're Dallas, you figure if we can put this run game together, if we can get this defense going, and Dak can be what Dak was last year, yeah, you probably throw your hat in the ring for Super Bowl contender out of the NFC.
Definitely. To say if they get that defense humming, yes, you know what I'm saying. Like if they could get that defense humming, but I mean that's a lot to ask with the fact that there's not going to be a lot of money out there to sign free agents, let alone your own players, with the cap basically shrinking from where you expected it was going to be this upcoming season. All right.
And they're just really quick. They're interesting because you hear every year, the talent in Dallas. I forgot that defensive end. I'll look up his name, who just signed that big contract.
Lawrence.
Yeah, DeMarcus Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
He was talked about as all worldly, and then last year really didn't have much of a season whatsoever. So I wonder if part of their thinking is, maybe we don't need to bring in too many new people. We just got to get these guys playing again. If supposedly you have all this talent that every year analysts are like, well, the Cowboys have the most talent out of everybody, so they're contenders.
I mean, when you bring a coach that hasn't coached in 12 years in, and now you're bringing in Dan Quinn and hoping that he can get back to the Legion of Boom days, you like you're saying, hopefully you can take the talent that we have and you can re-energize it and figure the scheme that will make sure that we're getting the best out of these players that we're playing these large contracts to.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of contracts, somebody's not getting one all of a sudden. Well, we knew he wasn't going to get one. He's going to get a franchise tender. Is one and only Allen Robinson, receiver for the Bears, who's been pretty good through his 3 years here. The Bears placed the exclusive franchise tag on A-Rob. We all know that he said that would be the last option that he would prefer. But it was one of the things that we talked about on the podcast today. Hey, it's in the CBA. You know what I'm saying? Tony was saying he was furious or infuriated, I should say, to quote him properly. And I want Allen Robinson to get paid, and he will get paid. but it's in the CBA so that these situations right here, the Bears can hold on to their player while free agency is going on. Because imagine if he was a free agent and they would have to try to, they would have to try to match someone compared. And I'm not saying it's fair to Allen Robinson, but it's just that unfortunately that's what was negotiated. So it's one of those things that we may not like it, but it's a fact of life. I do believe they'll get a contract done. It would be weird if he plays this entire season on a franchise tag, because then I wouldn't think they would get it done, and I would think next year they wouldn't want to pay him. It was 15% more, 30. I think it's maybe 30% more.
Yeah,
I think after the second tag, the retag. So, and it's 120% of what the top 5 players at wide receiver made over the last 5 years. So he would basically, if he played on the tag this year, they wouldn't use it next year, and he would walk. Hopefully, and it was one of those things that I was saying. One, when they're trying to figure out the quarterback position, you kind of can't give him all the money. What if they could get Russell Wilson, and you got the situation with Russell Wilson and his contract, and you're trying to get that under the cap, and you're just trying to figure out, just hold on, A-Route, we're going to necessarily get to you. So I wasn't mad, but I understand him wanting guaranteed money. One of the things that one of the guys Eric brought up under Center Pod was that Allen Robinson wants to be an agent after this, and I didn't know that. So in knowing that, because I'm like, he's not going to sit out, this year or miss a lot of time. But in knowing that, I was like, oh, that kind of puts a little shudder down my spine, because he may be trying to show something as far as player power with what we've seen, the empowerment from the quarterbacks in the NFL this season, and we always see it in the NBA. But yeah, what were your thoughts as far as Allen Robinson getting tagged, Ryan?
Yeah, I think, like you said, I think you put it really well. I mean, both sides are doing what they have to do. Allen Robinson doesn't want to play on the franchise tag. As an NFL player, you could be done at any snap with any injury or anything that happens. You want that long-term contract that gives you multiple years of guaranteed money. Now, I don't think we should necessarily feel super bad for Allen Robinson, because he's going to make an average of the top 5 receivers contracts for this season combined. So he's going to be well paid. It's just he doesn't get the security. That's the problem that we all have. And obviously, we all are fans of Allen Robinson. We want him to get that security, and hopefully it's with the Bears. But when you look at what the Bears are doing, I mean, you said it, Ken. You don't know if you don't trade Khalil Mack or one of these big contracts and you're trying to acquire a big contract, you can't just throw big money at Allen Robinson. That's not going to work. And I don't care how paid Allen Robinson is. If you don't figure out who's throwing him the ball, that's completely irrelevant. So, if you're the Bears, it makes a lot of sense to tag him. You can give yourself another year and potentially find his replacement, a cheaper option, and give yourself that year to find it, because I'm with you, Ken. I highly doubt they'll franchise tag him consecutively 2 years in a row. Or you give that year to figure out maybe a contract that works a little bit better for you. Maybe you can find a cap hit number by stretching out these years or giving him these bonuses, and figure out a number that works for both sides and give yourself some more time, because clearly they couldn't come together in the first place. Or the third thing, I mean, he's an asset that you could potentially trade. And if you're a new team, it's a little more attractive to bring in a guy and negotiate a deal on your own terms rather than getting a contract that's already handed to you that's negotiated by a former team. And if ultimately Allen Robinson, he's unhappy and disgruntled and doesn't want to play on it, that's probably the worst case scenario for the Bears, because then you're like forced to trade him at that point. And we know this team needs as much of Allen Robinson as they can possibly get, because they just don't have much behind him. And he changes the offense if he's completely gone. The whole thing needs to be reworked.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, go ahead.
Just to wrap it up, it's Allen Robinson. Hopefully, like you said, you can find some kind of understanding with him or some common ground that you make sure that he will play this year and not cause too much of a holdout or distraction in terms of that, because you need to count on him if you're the Bears. You need him if you are the Bears, because you have nothing else really in terms of playmaker on offense that you can really count as like a number one option.
We need you. I'll say this. You have a decent little tandem if you have him and Darnell Mooney as your X and your Y. You know what I'm saying?
With a Cole Kmet maybe?
I was going to mention that. I was just going to say, with a maybe, if he can progress with the Cole Kmet, you got you all right. You're not bad right there. You're not bad. Dave Montgomery out of the backfield, Tarico on his back. You know what I'm saying? So if you get somebody that's under center that can sit there and really exploit those riches, now you're cooking with grease. You know what I'm saying? But speaking of the quarterback, you know what the quarterback needs, and we saw it in the Super Bowl, and that's tackles, right? And Bobby Massie, the Bears' right tackle, his option wasn't picked up. He said he knew it was going to take place last week, but it came to grips. I was reading it in the Tribune today. It came to grips Monday when he was working out at Hollis Hall that he wasn't going to be back. He's going to leave the door open to come back to the Bears, but he was like, if they can't afford me now, and I'm the only tackle that's out here, so I'm going to get paid, I'm probably not going to end up being back here. You know what I'm saying? Bobby Massie, who he's been decent. He's been the last couple of years. You haven't really heard his name, and I mean in a good way, as far as offsides and false starts. I should say false starts. Charles Leno wasn't as bad this year as he was last year when it comes to false starts. But still, Bobby Massie's going to be gone. So is it going to be Alex Barr? Are you going to bring Fetty back? What are you going to do with the right tackle? What do you think they should do with the right tackle, Ryan?
Well, there's got to be an infusion of youth talent. I mean, they can't just keep spending big money on tackles that are very average players.
But the thing is, they haven't been spending big money, Ryan. They've been doing it. They've been doing it like going to Aldi. Like
that is a kind of labeling that they've been paying. I guess it's more so they've been paying a lot for what they've been getting out of the tackles.
And they haven't put any draft equity in it. But yeah, Bobby Massie for a left tackle is on like a used car lot. Yeah, I'm sorry. I meant Charles Leno Jr. Charles Leno Jr. for a left tackle is like going on Western to get you a hot lemon. You know what I'm saying? It works though. It works. It's gonna get you to A and B. Don't worry. You're gonna make it to work. You might have to put some more water in that radiator. All right. You know how old it is with the radiator. Right. But you're gonna get there. But no, they haven't. These guys haven't been really getting paid because they've been using all the money on the defense.
And with Bobby Massie, he pretty much has been what his MO was. A really good run blocker, struggles in pass pro, just like Charles Leno, especially against speed. And I think that's the thing that really has to be fixed. I mean, this NFL we know is getting faster and stronger every single year. You can't have tackles on both sides that struggle with speed against pass rushers. I don't know how that's going to work, especially when you got guys like Nick Foles in the pocket that can't move around. I mean, you got to be able to get some tackles that can hold them onto themselves out on an island, that they can stand up and take on good pass rushers. Because if you're going to always have to chip and help, I mean, then you can't afford to lose anybody on your inside, and you can't afford to have any mistakes when it comes to getting the ball out in time or reading out who's the hot guy, who's the guy I should give the ball to in a pass pro, because you just won't have time.
Last one when it comes to the Bears, but I'm sticking with the line. 3-time Pro Bowler Kyle Long came out on Chris's Long's, the partner to his podcast, put out that Kyle's going to be back, and Chris confirmed it. Kyle Long wants back in the NFL. He doesn't probably want to be back with the Bears. On our text thread today, when Josh posted, bring him back. I'm like, dude, we got guards. Like, I mean, I'm sure he wants to play, but he's not starting. I mean, now if we're talking about you going to give me Kyle Long from 7-8 years ago, and he can start over James Daniel and Cody Whitehair, even though you got those guys under contract. And they may have to renegotiate Cody Whitehair's contract with this cap issue, restructure, I should say. But we know, and it's one thing I said on the Under Center pod, don't even come at me about him playing right tackle. You know what I'm saying? Because we've seen that experiment But yeah, we definitely want him to land someplace and play a lot more years. It'd be great if he turned into, and then he actually better because he was a Pro Bowl player here, into a Mark Colombo situation. Anybody that doesn't remember Mark Colombo, a first round offensive lineman the Bears drafted probably like 20 years ago. His first 3 years
Out
here in
of
Chicago.
BC.
Go ahead. Yeah, out of BC. He was injured his first at least 3 seasons here, I feel like. And finally, the Bears held on to him. They finally let him go, and he got healthy in Dallas. And I think he had like 6 decent, good years playing down there in Dallas during the Tony Romo era.
And I think became their offensive line coach after he retired.
He got fired. He was the offensive line coach this season for the Giants, and he got into it with the head coach. And I don't know if he started letting that those hands go. But the head coach was like, "You need to carry your ass on, right? You need to carry your ass on."
Jason Garrett must really like himself some Mark Colombo, huh?
Oh yeah,
like
he was
bring him along.
He's like, "Damn man, you're making it hot here, though. You're making it hot in the big city." But yeah, so Calhoun, I definitely wish you the best. But what are your thoughts as far as him coming here? The reality of it.
You nailed it.
Yeah, I know.
Nope.
It's just let's stop even playing.
No.
I mean, and again, it's because he should want to play. I'm sorry for cutting you off. Go ahead, Ryan.
No, it just like you said, unless you're moving Cody Whitehair or James Daniels to center and not even considering Sam Mustipher, which I wouldn't even understand because I think you're better as an offensive line with Daniels, Mustipher, Whitehair rather than Daniels, Whitehair, Long. And you nailed it with the contract. You've got Cody Whitehair you're paying a bunch of money to. James Daniels right now is your best offensive lineman who's getting close to needing a contract extension, and he would be a terrible guy to just let go, especially when you're paying a lot of money to other offensive linemen that aren't really doing as well of a job as him.
They're not paying him a lot of money, Ryan.
I know.
You that. I'm just saying. You said they're paying a lot to other. Those guys aren't
compared to Daniels, he's on his rookie contract.
Listen. What's the name's money so low with Daniels being drafted like 8 or 10 or whatever? I can't remember where he was drafted. He's probably getting Charles Leno Jr. money right now.
No way.
Charles Leno pulls up in a Toyota. Daniel pulls up in a Humvee. I'm telling you that right now.
Freaking James Daniels contract. I want to see this. I think I've seen so much bad football from Charles Leno that I'm just shocked that he's even getting paid. It doesn't make sense to me.
Okay,
all right.
Okay. What we got? What do we have here, Ryan?
James Daniels. Average salary, $1.737.
All right.
If we throw in a Charles Leno Jr., and his average salary is 9.25.
Okay, you got me. You know I was joking.
8 mil.
You know I was being facetious. You didn't have to take me.
The word of the day. You took it.
You didn't have to put me out there like that. I use it often. That's one of those. I use facetious about every show. Usually, I put it in a facetious. I do a facetious. All right. That's all I got.
Fastidious of you. I don't even know if that's a word.
You beat me down. You know what time it is. We need to go to the segment of all segments. It is time to go up for grabs.
Well, let me
grabs.
Let me put that energy back into you, because I think we got a really juicy first topic here. Illinois is becoming college basketball central, baby. You've got the Fighting Illini. Loyola's even in there, and they might put on a little bit of a show, but obviously the focus in Illinois is the Fighting Illini, who, after this past week, they look like potentially the best team in the country, certainly within the Big Ten, and the Big Ten has been by far the best conference in college basketball. And we're getting pretty close to March Madness, so I just kind of wanted to know, what's your excitement level? Where are we at with March Madness this year? Is there a little added extra because the Fighting Illini are in there, or is it just kind of standard quo excitement for March Madness?
I'm ecstatic, and I'm usually not the Fighting Illini guy. I wasn't even diehard sports fan then, but the Flying Illini, the Kendall Gill, Nick Anderson, Marcus Liberty. Those were the guys that, as a kid, again, I wasn't even watching it, but that was like my team. I didn't gravitate, and I should have as much to the D Brown.
That was my team.
The Darren Williams, and what was the small forward's name?
Luther Head,
and Luther Head team. But this team, because one, AO went to Kenton's Grammar School.
Cool.
Yeah, so like that, and then just to, yeah, like I like this squad. So I'm ecstatic. I'm not even usually the Big Ten guy, but I'm feeling the Big Ten this year. I hope at least 3 Big Ten teams can make it to the Final Four. I hope Michigan makes it too. I want Juwan Howard, another Chicagoan, who won the Big Ten this year. I think he's only like terrific job. I don't know if he's the 4th that's won the Big Ten in his first year on the job, or the first to win in the the 4th in power conferences. I forgot when I saw that illustration, which one it was. Was it the Big Ten or was it NCAA? But yeah, he was. Juwan Howard went to school right by me at CVS. He went to school with my cousin. I'm gonna tell you a story. My cousin used to tell me stories about not getting along with Juwan Howard. She didn't get along with Juwan Howard in school, right? And because she can hold a grudge. My cousin can hold a grudge, right? So she'd be like, yeah, something. She had some things, right? So one day last year, I'm looking on Facebook, and lo and behold, here my cousin is all hugged up with her friend Juwan Howard, right? Now, I didn't think about, hey, give me an interview, right? I was just like, hey, I thought you wasn't rocking with homie like that, right? Mind you, I love me some Juwan Howard, right? And she was like, oh, we buried that hatchet years ago. It's like, that's not how you told it, broke it down to me, right? But yeah, I want to see.
We need to talk to her about this interview.
But yeah, yeah, definitely. So I'm rooting for Michigan. I'm rooting for Illinois. Those are the teams that I'm and Illinois more than Michigan. But if Illinois goes down, I want Michigan to win it. I want Michigan to win it because that was the team that I wanted to win when I was a shorty and they lost to North Carolina. You know what I'm saying, in the finals. You know what I'm saying? I had Michigan winning that one, you know what I'm saying, with the timeout and it was timeout and travel, but timeout. Yeah, I know. And you were like hurts. 2. He was like, what? You don't have any timeouts.
Chris, why?
So yeah, that's definitely what I'm excited about. Those 2 teams are the teams that I'm most excited about, and the Big Ten in general, and Northwestern, man. Chris, you got to do something up there, buddy. We need you up in this dance too. But what about you, Ryan? What are you most excited about, and what's your level of excitement?
Yeah, I've been going a little bit back and forth because I'm definitely a big fan of the Blue Bloods being there, and this is a very weird year for the Blue Bloods. There won't be maybe any at all. It's just going to be a bunch of free-for-all, and in a way, it's kind of exciting because it's kind of unique in that aspect. So
good point.
It's a little bit of both for me on that front. I'm a little sad about the Blue Bloods, but it's kind of interesting seeing something different. It's kind of nice not seeing Mike Krzyzewski and some of these old dudes that are constantly there, and usually they're complaining and cheating anyways. So that part,
allegedly.
Yes, no proof, except for some.
Yeah, stuff that like came out. I was about with the Sean Miller stuff.
But I think the Illini thing, and I'm with you. I'm not the Illini guy. I don't care too much about that school, but I sometimes gravitate towards them with basketball, like that. It was 03, right? With the D Brown. I love that team, and I really like this team. I like how they're put together. AO, I think he is probably the best player I've seen in an Illinois school. I don't know. I mean, maybe some others like Darren Williams would be ahead of him.
You mean that played in
at
Illinois?
An Illinois school in college.
But you sound that you've seen, because I mean
that I've seen. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I got you. I'll rock with you.
Like
I'll rock
Darren
with you.
Williams would probably be number 1, and then it's maybe AO. Okay. Maybe. I'm trying to think. Unless Luther Head or D Brown, you'd put ahead of them. But I would go.
And like I said, I wasn't really watching, but I probably would have to go Kendall Gill.
See, I never saw Kendall Gill in college.
Yeah, and I mean, I only saw like bits and pieces of it, but I may say that, and I may go AO over Duran.
That's what I'm saying. He is good. Like this dude is good.
I'll say this: he may not. Listen, he could have a better NBA career than Duran Williams, because Duran fell off when he got to the Nets. You know what I'm saying? When he forced his way out of Utah, got Jerry Sloan fired, right? But that first 4 or 5 years, when it was him and Chris Paul, who was the best point guard in the league, you know what I'm saying? And this is when because of the hand checking rules was gone, that more little guys were able to have a much bigger, larger impact in the NBA, like we see today or whatever. And we see that today, not just inside the lane, but with range. But I think that AO, man, at college, I think he may be able to take over a game more than what Duran was at that point. You know what I'm saying? So that I may have to choose him over Duran Williams. But yeah, man, this is nice. And I mean, the worst part is we deserve this regularly in a state like Illinois, that at least basketball, like we can't even football, we've just given up on. But at least basketball, several colleges should be in the tournament with threats to at least yearly go to the Elite Eight. That's not asking a lot.
Like, why can't they be Providence? Why can't we have a school like Providence in Illinois?
Yeah,
listen, they're always in the tournament every year, and sometimes they threaten.
Why can't we be Villanova with DePaul?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's just like we have these institutions, but these institutions need to step up, and also, you know, the cash envelopes need to be increased. All right, your teams are adults. These kids need money, and it's time for you to make sure that they're getting paid that bread. Stop acting like these small schools. We know. Listen, we see these stadiums that y'all are building. All right, that money, that cash is flowing. Let some of it flow down. Let it, as Ronald Reagan said, trickle down. It has to trickle down. All right, that's what you have to do. Get some of these cash. There's the shoe boxes out there. All right, stuff it in the shoebox, hand it to the player. That's what you need to do. We boosters get to boosting. All right, we need t-shirts to say that. Boosters get to boosting. I need better sports in my state. All right, come on. They're gonna have a league for high school players to go get paid, and you telling me we can't make sure that Ayo it can get a nice little whip? He can't get him a little
champagne.
I'm saying he can't get a Kia. Y'all can't get that boy a Kia on some rims, some things, huh? All right, come on now.
Champagne.
You know, the last 2 years, he sold enough jerseys to get a Kia for them. All right,
and throw Kofi Cockburn on there too.
I was gonna say, Lil Shaq. He can't get him like a listen. I'm gonna go cheap for y'all. He can't get him like an early '90s K Sport Blazer. Come on now, that big man need a big truck. Y'all know, all right? He can't get a K Sport. Like, come on, y'all.
K Sport.
We got to get this going. All right, we got to get this moving.
Mr. Coffee, we got you a K Sport.
Fits you terrifically. Look at it. Go and sit back up in there. Like, come on, man. Let's get this moving. All right. Like, so yeah, I'm ecstatic. I'm happy too. I'm gonna tell you what even makes me happier. These kids decided in Coffee and AO to come back, and they increased their draft status, and they're gonna get paid more. They're gonna get a higher draft. They're gonna be drafted higher and get more money on their initial NBA contracts. And I'm damn happy for those two young men to be able to do that. And also the rookie, the freshman little point guard, they got to win off this past weekend. I can't remember his name. They got it. The pipeline seems like it's kind of active. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it's going to be as good after it's not going to be as good as after when these two players leave after this season, but still. So yeah, that's a pretty good one, Ryan. I'm happy, and I'm looking forward to March Madness. I'm not going to be as lucky as you to be at a sport book full of Rona, enjoying it.
I haven't got the time off yet.
Is that classic Rona, or is that a Rona fusion that you have on that platter, man?
Oh, take it away. Variant. I prefer the fusion.
I was supposed to say UK variant or South African.
All right. I've had enough of the American.
What else you got, Ron?
Well, speaking of madness, let's talk about the Mad Hatter because he has been let go by Kansas. Les Miles, after the scathing LSU report, and Kansas have parted ways. And it just seems like another sad story of college athletics where guy has some success and gets so much power and so much kind of rope for leeway and becomes the king of the school, and the school protects him because he's winning and bringing in the dollars. And now
with Nick Saban's teams, oh
right.
Boy, you did so good with Nick Saban's players when you won that national title. You will stay here forever, right?
What did you think?
When does the Ed Ogeron stuff start to leak out? Yeah, my name is Ed. I like you. I'm joking.
Come on, he's a good Cajun man. Let's not do that.
Listen, I used to like Les Miles, but Les Miles, Les Miles has a
weird that grass.
Yeah, a weird, reserved, intense look that the first thing I thought about was how he was staring at those young women with that look. I was like, oh,
like that
yeah.
Look?
Boy, you nailed that one right there. You nailed that. Listen, imagine being a young lady and you see that from across the yard and here he goes again. Right? Like, oh,
how
no.
How about not even see it when you feel the hand
trickling
on your back, and then you turn around, you're like, this face.
Les looking,
less is more. Get out of here, Les.
Those poor young ladies, that school, listen, LSU did a real disservice to those young ladies. Just paraphrasing some of the things that I've heard. I believe that the LSU school higher-ups, after they did an initial investigation, basically came to a decision of whether or not it was going to be better to separate from him and basically have to explain why, or wait and let this come out and deal with the blowback that they're dealing with. And the crazy thing is this: they're not really dealing with blowback to a certain degree. So they got what they wanted. They got hoping that he would get them another national title, but Nick Saban stopped him, right? But they got that, and then he's gone. So, like, who's really getting the blame? Kansas isn't getting the blame, even though they got rid of him. But LSU, let's not forget, LSU, and then they all cheat. But they was doing some cheating last year to get that national title, which, listen, as long as the drought had been for them, I understand. But when you're doing this to these young ladies' lives, man, that's just like a lot of people should get fired for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, in all fairness, go ahead.
Doesn't it show the cesspool that is kind of college athletics? Because this is LSU, SEC, but it doesn't really matter in terms of sports media. Like, the only time we talk college athletics in national sports media is because it's the national championship or something crazy happened. We don't we talk about New England with Tom Brady, or even now we're talking Dak with the Cowboys. We don't just talk about LSU and Ed Ogeron and what they're doing, or any of the college programs.
You're right.
And then on top of it, they're so powerful regionally where they're at that they usually have this kind of what is that?
The Kings.
Insulation from the media that they have down there.
Great point.
Because you got to be careful. That's the hand that feeds right there.
Right.
And the national people, they would be kind of free from any of that. But LSU did they win a national championship? Did they do this? Because it just doesn't make national news unless you have something like this report.
I know that Nick Saban would never do something like this.
No.
I do.
No.
He wouldn't, sir.
Because he hasn't gotten caught for it.
He may cheat a little, but he would never do something this disgusting, to say the least. I can't wait to that. It will continue.
Easy. Don't let this clip come back up.
I don't care.
The serial rapist that is Nick Saban.
Whoa, you're going too far right there. So slow down. What else? What else you got, Ryan?
My last up for grabs is focusing on the eternal optimism that is spring training. And, spring training is preseason, but there's a lot of interesting little tidbits that come out of it. So I'm just wondering, what's the one burning thought or question you have concerning spring training?
You don't want to know my question because it happened. Ooh. It happened yesterday, right? I don't want to see the Dodgers in the World Series. I usually like smoke. You know, when the Sox won in 05, I wanted some Yankee smoke. I like the Red Sox smoke that we got there, and the Anaheim smoke, and then the Astros smoke. I wanted all the smoke, so nobody had any question. I don't want any, dang it, Dodgers smoke. The Dodgers, and it is spring training, but golly gee, what a whooping they placed on the White Sox just today. I think it was like 8-zip. Dude, it was bad.
Remember when you would get on me about hating the Dodgers because of the Cubs? I told you
I'm not hating
coming.
But you know what? I'm not hating the Dodgers. I respect them. I still have an affinity for them. I just want my team to win, right? Like, I don't have to hate them to want my team. I'll tell you this. I'm going to tell you this, though, Ryan. If we get to the World Series and they beat the Sox, don't worry. I will join you. I will join you. Scoot over. Let me get on this bus right here, right? Okay. I hate their asses, too. All right.
The vindication I would feel.
Dude, I don't know. Like, usually, like I say, I mean, listen. And again, I'm living in a White Sox mindset of abuse, right? I'm not used to succeeding as a fan of this team. I'm not used to them succeeding, I should say. So I'm waiting for the shoe to drop, you know. But man, that Dodgers, they was doing the deal. And it's spring training, but still, man, I wasn't feeling that game. So my fear is. I guess my one fear would be that it's baseball, and sometimes loaded teams don't start off well. You know, it's baseball. You know what I'm saying? And you may be able to get back into it as far as getting to the playoffs. And we know there's not going to be an expanded playoffs like there was last year. So there's not as many chances if you get off to a slow start. So that's always going to be a fear. But now trying to not be a Sox fan and expecting great things. That NL smoke, I don't even know. Listen, then the Padres, and of course, he whose name should not be spoken on this show. I'd rather get that Padres smoke than that Dodgers smoke. I'll tell you that much. But still, the Padres look ironclad.
Right, they
look ironclad too. They look ironclad. But you know what I'm saying? But see, the Dodgers have been so battle tested through the years of not breaking through. So that's the thing where they know what's going on.
You know what makes me sick about that damn team? They have like one of the best farm systems in baseball, and they have an unlimited checkbook.
Why are people still coming up, dog?
They've
been bringing people up for 8 years now.
Right. It's like they have this special rule, like it's almost like football. They're allowed to like practice squad steal, and they're just taking all the top prospects around baseball and just putting them in their system.
I'm feeling you. So that was my concern.
And let's just go sign Trevor Bauer. Let's just go get Mookie Betts. Let's just sign whoever we need whenever we need. We got a kid, call him up. We need a guy that can throw 100 that's in the minors. Let's get Dustin May up here. Get the hell out of here.
They do such a terrific job, and they spend all of the money. So yeah, that's my concern. What about you?
I think my big burning question is, I guess, how is this season going to start for both the Chicago teams? Like you said, do the Sox need a little bit of time to kind of get their feet under them, or do they come out right away just like hungry? Are they just like the Cubs in 16 where they were just great out of the gates and then they struggled for a little bit in early May and then they never looked back and won it that year? And for like the Cubs, it's kind of the opposite. I don't see them as particularly getting off to a good start this year. I just don't see it or feel it because I don't know. Maybe I'm just overlooking or looking into it too much, but I'm not seeing the talent that I want to see on the north side. And I think that they're going to struggle a little bit in the beginning.
I mean, they got the talent. The question is if they get off to a bad start. Because then you would think some guys may end up getting unloaded prior to the trade deadline. But I mean, you still got core players, dude. Like, and also the NL Central isn't that strong of a division.
It's not, but it's top heavy compared to last year. Because the Cardinals, boy, oh boy.
Yeah, they got the whip. You know, when they got some guys. You know what I'm saying? When you look at Nolan Arenado, and then you got Goldschmidt, you got some studs.
And they got their legitimate ace in Jack Flaherty.
Yeah, you got some studs there, but yeah, that's still. I mean, I would say this: I would feel you if the division was stronger. I would then be worried because even look what they did last year, you know. And I mean, what are they really missing? They're missing Schwarber, and you replaced him with Jock Peterson.
Jack Peterson.
You know, the thing is going to hurt you is that you're missing you Darvish. That especially last year.
That's what I'm kind of thinking. If the pitching staff is as kind of shaky as we think it might be, because they don't really have, the velo in there, and maybe that won't matter. But it seems like with as many soft tossers as they have, if they're not on, they're going to be bashed for a bunch of runs. In theory, we'll see if that happens. But my issue is if you don't have that pitching staff, I mean, it's been since 2016 that Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Javier Baez, Wilson Contreras, that they start off hot and maintain it. It just their norm is to give you really good flashes of that MVP kind of stuff and that high caliber core player talent. And then let me just show you this regression here real quick for a while.
So you're saying they're Kaneko-ing?
Ooh, no, I think that's below Kaneko-ing.
I'll tell you why it's above Kaneko-ing, because he never was the MVP or was in the MVP range.
He was the fans MVP. How dare you?
But he was the king of the halves. I would say only, and mind you, he would do so well in the half that he would have good numbers at the end of the year. But there were only really 2 years where he was kind of hot in both halves. You know what I'm saying? You would expect like, oh, Polly's he's gonna have a half. So I feel like you're saying they're Kaneko-ing a little bit.
I mean, I'll take if I knew bona fide one half is going to be great for each one of those guys that I mentioned, I think you kind of take that a little bit, but
you just don't want them all to be in the same half.
My problem is I don't know. Chris Bryant, when has he been healthy a full year? Javier Baez can't use the video techniques that he's been using because Major League Baseball got rid of it from all the cheating, and he really relied on that in his approaches and his at-bats, and we know that he's limited in his ability to at the plate in terms of his swinging approach and style. He's not going to change his game a ton to be more patient or let off that slider on the outside. And some of these other guys like Wilson Contreras, he's the same thing. Can he stay healthy? And he's been the hot or cold, kind of one half hot, other half cold. But over the last couple of years, it's kind of been cold both halves with just stretches of good. So, I mean, at this point with the Cubs offense, I would take if I got a bona fide half from all of those guys. And that means you're really reaching at the bottom of the barrel.
It'll be all right. You can come over to the South Side. We'll entertain you this season.
Trust me, I'm already counting on it because I'm not feeling the Cubs right now.
But are you going to be a Diamondbacks fan?
Oh, no. I don't think I'm going to be any Arizona fan. I don't think I like any of their teams.
Hey, if the Cardinals are good next year, man, you may as well ride that bus. I mean,
I'm a little racist towards white helmets. I don't like them.
All right. On that note, we always appreciate you spending.
Damn those Dolphins, those Bills, screw them. Along with the Cardinals.
Spending some time with us, taking some time out. We will be back with more with regularity. Seems like I have no issue from whatever was going on. Make sure you check out the Flipping Friends. We'll definitely give you an episode dropping this upcoming Monday. We'll figure out when we're going to do it this weekend. Try to even improve on it. We're trying to improve on everything. Definitely don't do anything stupid before you hear from us again. But again, man, definitely just keeping on when it comes to Ryan and myself as we try to bring you this content and take different levels to when we're doing it. Ryan, you stay safe out there, and I will see you in a couple of days, brother.
Yes, take care. Enjoy that Under the Center podcast that everyone can find on iTunes or wherever they find their popular podcasts.
My man.